I'm going to advocate for getting involved in these bad boys here. This is a trail camera, and trail cameras exist primarily, I think, for hunters. Hunters put these up in places in order to figure out where the game is and when it's around and when it isn't around. But they are also widely used now by naturalists to figure out what the behavior patterns of animals are. And it's also tremendously fun just to figure out whether or not you're studying creatures, to figure out what's available. So I will, yeah.
At Tipitini, in the Ecuadorian Amazon, where that picture that you showed of me in the eagle boots was taken, there was a long time camera trap study run by a man named Diego Mosquera, who at that point was the field manager for the station. And with the help of these so-called camera traps, these game cameras, he found that there were, I think there was primatologists already knew that there were 10 species of primates, but it was his camera trap work that revealed 5 different species of cats, of wild cats at Tipitini. And so they're super useful as a research tool as well.
Totally. And yeah, I must say it is marvelously fun and addictive to deploy these things. You learn a lot. You deploy them somewhere you think is going to be good and it isn't. And you learn a lot about the animals just in figuring out where they're going to be. Things you couldn't possibly validate without the camera because the animals are really good at avoiding you in many cases. And so anyway, these come in different kinds. They come in a regular flash camera version that takes night photos with the flash. I'd recommend against that. And then there are 2 versions that don't spook the animals. There's a low glow that has a light red glow. Animals do not see red in general. Nocturnal animals don't. And then there's a no glow, pure infrared one. And anyway, they record on a little SD card whatever they see, and then you come collect the SD card. There's some fancy ones now that if you have cell service where you deploy them, they will email you images of animals that happen by, which can be kind of neat. I've deployed a couple cameras in a local wildlife area. So the story is I was down there on my bike, and actually somebody recognized me, and I was talking to them. And as we were talking, looking out over the nature reserve, there was clearly some sort of large-bodied mammal, but we didn't know what it was. And anyway, I narrowed it down. It had to be one of a number of things. It had to be either otter or beaver or could be nutria.
Mink?
Well, I was already interested. I knew there were minks in this nature area, and I was interested to figure out where they were.
Do they swim much?
Minks?
Yeah.
Minks are always found on the shore of water. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they can swim, but I don't know that they do swim all that much. But they are closely associated with water.
So otter, beaver, or nutria were the 3 most likely suspects.
Were the 3 most likely suspects. And so I went down there and started poking around a little bit. That picture of the bald eagle in flight that I showed last time was me standing there trying to get a bead on these mammals, and the bald eagle flew over. And anyway, I did see the animals a second time, but I couldn't figure out what they were. They were too far off. And so I set up 2 animals. Yeah. Large-bodied, dark, low. So anyway, I deployed a game camera. And Zach, do you want to show what I came up with after about 2 weeks of... well, why don't you show all of it? Okay. So here's the first thing. That is a beaver. Can you step through the images? I don't have all of these images. So that is a beaver emerging from the water, being filmed with infrared. There you can see its eye shining back at the camera. Here's the second beaver coming out of the water. It's going to go upslope here. All right, so beaver, that's really exciting. Beaver is a rodent, and it's one of my favorite rodents. Such an interesting creature. They can be very shy. Here's the second creature that the camera picked up. Now, I think this is a muskrat and not a nutria. It could be a nutria, though. My sense of it being a muskrat. It looks fatter
and squatter than nutria.
Yeah, it's a little smaller, but nutria and muskrat. So watch this. It's going to take off into the water here. Zoom.
Yeah, once it's in the water, it's almost indistinguishable, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Keep going, Zach. Here's during the day. Oh, look, it's a pair of river otters. So this is a nature area that is on a tributary of the Willamette River, which runs right through Portland. And so these are 2 river otters that presumably enter the water here and then swim right out into the Willamette and hunt fish and maybe
And shake their little otter fists at the boaters.
probably they do. Here you can see it's raining as they're descending into the water. That's what I think we saw looking out at the I'm pretty sure it was going to be otters that were glumping along when I couldn't identify what it was.
When you were talking with the guy on the shore.
Yeah, for one thing, it was during the day, and the otters here, it's not, and the beavers here are at least partially nocturnal, probably entirely nocturnal. And now this last one's going to be a little bit difficult to make out, but
it's not a crocodile, is it?
no. For those of you who are photographers, rule of thirds, in the vertex of thirds in the lower left-hand part of the screen, you've got a little 4-legged animal with a long tail there. That is a mink. So this one camera.
This is all from one camera.
It was all from one camera.
Over the course of, it looks like, less than a week.
Yeah,
from the dates.
one go, this camera caught all of these things, and it's awesome. Amazing. I mean, this gives me.
I mean, to be fair though, you've got decades training, honing a naturalist's eye, not just as a field biologist, but also as a photographer, and so you put it in the right place. Right, like you could have put it somewhere where it wouldn't have caught anything.
I did,
obviously.
And indeed, I've got one deployed right now that caught absolutely nothing.
Okay.
So that's a thing that happens. And, anyway, it's a fun game. If you want a game that, is very real, figuring out how to get the wildlife to show up on your game camera is a pretty good one. And so I guess, you want to show the video? This is from our backyard.
Yeah.
This is a coyote. They, unfortunately, in Portland, hunt house cats quite actively. And this is literally, probably 40 feet from our back deck. Beautiful animal.
So that's actually from 2 years ago.
Yeah, that is from 2 years ago. Just a very high quality video. So it does prove that you can get really good quality video and pictures out of these things if you place them carefully. And anyway, so that's cool stuff. So
you've been getting some. We've got, unfortunately, 3 coyotes right here over the last several days, and you've been getting pictures of.
We have been, and I will show some pictures at some point. Indeed, actually, last week, people remember I was looking at an animal out the window that I said was very dark. I now know from multiple kinds of evidence that it had to be a coyote, and my sense that it was very dark was off. Everything else adds up. Maddie went to the spot and immediately picked it out and started looking around for something. And now I've camera trapped around the area. The coyotes come right through there. And so that's what I saw out the window.
And for those of you who might be concerned, if you hear yowling, it's because our cats are pissed because they're not allowed outside while there's this many coyotes right here who are clearly waiting for them.
Yeah.
They're waiting for snacks.
But anyway, think about whether, you can get these pretty cheap, for $100 you can get one that does the basics, and then, you can go up from there.
You got any in particular that you recommend? Because you've now got a few different types.
Yeah, I would say I wouldn't worry too much about no glow versus low glow. I think low glow is just fine, doesn't spook the animals at all.
But don't go flash.
Yeah, don't go with the visible flash. I would say I like the Bushnell cameras. Get one that has a screen so you can see what the camera is going to shoot rather than being surprised when you pick up your SD card.
Yeah.
And it's also really useful if they have a visible LED and a setting to test where the trigger zone is.
Oh.
So basically you can set it to test, and then you can walk out where you expect an animal to be if you're on a deer trail or something like that, and you can just make sure that if you walk there, you see the LED go off, then you know it triggers. But anyway, I like the Bushnell ones, are pretty good. And I would say you can go to Trail Cam Pro, the website, and they have very good reviews on things, and you can see, they have all kinds of stuff that you can bolt things to trees, and they all come with a strap for a reasonably small tree. You can just strap them onto the tree. It's easier to aim them if you have something with a little bit of a, tripod head versatility like that. But anyway, it's a fun game, and I'd be curious what you come up with if you do manage to capture something.
Beautiful.